Yo, what is up, guys? It's coming back here again today with another video. Today, we're going to do something that a lot of people are probably going to do, and that is a tier list of the NBA teams right now. Now, this is as of, what day is it today? August 23rd, 2021. So there is still a bunch of offseason left. The season doesn't start until about late October. So this is way too early predictions for each of these teams. I'm going to be putting them in tiers based on if I think they could potentially win a title, if they're a solid playoff team, if they're kind of on the fringe of the playoffs, if they're a lottery team, or if they're tanking. There are only going to be a few teams probably in the tanking section because I think a lot of teams this season are trying to win games, and tanking I'm just going to put as like bottom of the barrel type teams. Some of these teams might not even be necessarily like tanking on purpose. They're just not very good at this point in their NBA timelines. So we'll see about that. Also, background different, and there's a reason why there hasn't been anything for the last few days, and that's because I just moved back to college for my last year, which is kind of insane to me. So if you're wondering why there was nothing, that's why, and the background changed. Also kind of working with the setup, like I said, kind of getting back into being in this new setup. So let me know how it looks, and if it looks bad, let me know. So going to start off with the Philadelphia 76ers, first seed last season. I really think they're going to be a good team. I do think a Ben Simmons trade is going to come at some point, but right now I'm not going to put them anywhere other than potential title team. Joel Embiid, MVP candidate. Ben Simmons, even though he doesn't like to shoot the ball, if he ever learns to shoot, it'll raise their ceiling more. And having an MVP candidate plus a potential defensive player of the year guy surrounded by a bunch of solid role players, you have to be a potential title team. Next, the Washington Wizards. I think they're a fringe playoff team. I'm not like certain that they're going to be in the lottery, but I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs this year. And it's not because they didn't get better as a team. They may have gotten better as a team, adding a bunch of complementary pieces next to Bradley Beal, despite trading Russell Westbrook. I think overall as a team, they got better. The problem is, there's just so many good teams in the Eastern Conference. The Bulls, for example, are a team that could potentially come in and take their spot amongst other teams. So I think they're just going to end up falling out of things, and that's no fault of their own. Just the rest of the East got good. So Atlanta Hawks, I don't think they're a title team. I think their run was really good. I just think the East is too good at this point. This is also, there's potential for more development throughout the season. Maybe Trae Young continues to get better. Maybe John Collins gets better. Maybe DeAndre Hunter has like a breakout season. So this is just me predicting like months in advance. Who knows? Maybe something comes up, they make another trade, or just guys really do start popping off. The Hawks are a team that, once again, I could see making a deep run into the playoffs because they're so good. They're well coached. Nate McMillan did a great job in his half season there. I just think they're a tier below title team right now. Cavaliers, I'm going to put tanking. I don't think they're going to be very good. They're just not at that point yet. They've got a really, really nice young core, and I think they could be a pretty competitive team most nights. I just think they're going to end up losing more of those close games than that they'll end up winning, and that ultimately is going to push them towards the bottom of the standings, which isn't that bad of a deal right now because they're still looking for young talent and they're still going through their rebuild. Detroit Pistons, I think the Pistons are around the Cavs. They might... How many teams do I want to put in the tanking tier is the question. I'll put them in lottery tier for right now just because I like what Jeremy Grant did. Cade Cunningham, I think, is going to come in, make an immediate impact. I think Killian Hayes is going to have a good season. I might move them down to tanking. We'll see, just because I don't think they're going to be very good again this year. I do think that they have a lot of talent on that roster. It's just a matter of it coming into place. The Pacers, I'm going to put in fringe playoffs. I think they're just like right there. Like I said, the Eastern Conference is really good, and this Pacers team is super talented, so I don't know if I could put them in the lottery tier. But it's going to be a tough year for them just because of how good the East is. Rick Carlisle's got to come in and make a difference. Milwaukee Bucks, obviously, title team because they're the defending champions. Toronto Raptors, I think I'll go fringe playoffs. I might move them down to lottery just because there's just so many teams that I could see making their way into the playoffs. And a team of Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, who was one of the most important players in a finals run just a couple seasons ago. Gary Trent Jr., I like a lot. Scotty Barnes. I think this is a solid team. I do think they're going to end up in the lottery, so I may move them down there before the end of this video, but I think they're on the border. The Mavericks, solid playoff team. You've got Luka Doncic. You don't have to worry about not making the playoffs. I do think they need a second star before we're talking about title contending, but I think right now they're a solid playoff team. The Denver Nuggets are a solid playoff team as of now. If Jamal Murray comes back and he looks like the player that we saw previously, I think they could make that jump to potential title team. That's how good that I think this team is. It's just that without Jamal Murray giving that scoring punch alongside a Nikola Jokic, I don't know if they're going to be able to make that push. We'll see how they look towards the end of the season when hopefully Jamal Murray is able to come back, and that will determine a lot of where their season ends up. If they're towards the bottom of the conference, like if they're at like a 6, 7, maybe even 5-ish range, when the playoffs roll around and Jamal Murray is still getting back into things, it's going to be really tough for them to make a run in a stacked Western Conference. But the Nuggets do have the MVP, and just for that, I think they're a solid playoff team, plus some great role players around them. Memphis Grizzlies, also fringe playoff team. They're right there. I don't think they end up making it this year just because Valanciunas is really good. However, I think the key to them making a return to the playoffs is Jaron Jackson Jr. We didn't see a lot of him last year, and what we did see was a lot of inconsistency. I like him a lot, and I think he could be potentially their center of the future if he's able to play in kind of that smaller ball role. I know he's like 6'11", but just in terms of frame, he's not as big as some other centers. I like him a lot. Great defender. He just needs to get his offensive game a little more refined, I guess is the word I'm looking for, but I like him a lot. The Timberwolves, I think they could be a fringe playoff team. I do think that, but I'm going to put them in the lottery just for right now because I think that overall they're just like a tier below. If I put them up in fringe playoffs, I'm going to put a lot of teams up in fringe playoffs. I think the Timberwolves are really good and they have the potential to, or not really good, but they're going to be pretty solid this upcoming season. I think they definitely can make the playoffs, especially through like a play-in game. That's how much I like this roster. It's just, it feels a little early to put them up there. The San Antonio Spurs are tanking. I think people think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be really bad. I think they have the potential to be the 13th, 14th, or 15th team in the Western Conference. It's just a tough West, and ultimately there's really not much you can do with the roster that they have right now. They're starting a rebuild. That's perfectly fine, and it's the beginning of a weird new era because the Spurs have just always been really good, and to see them now being one of the worst teams in the West, it's weird. Utah Jazz, title team. I firmly believe that. I think they just kind of fell apart at the wrong time last season. Donovan Mitchell's a stud. Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year, one of the best defensive players we've seen in a long time. And Mike Conley was an all-star this past year. I think the Jazz are going to be good. Maybe not quite as good as last year, but being the number 1 overall seed in the West just last season, I have to put them up here. And I think they're one of the teams that could win the West. The Clippers, now keep in mind, Kawhi Leonard is out for probably all of next season, so I'm going to put them fringe playoffs. Without Kawhi Leonard, I don't know if they make the playoffs because the West has so many teams that are getting better. I think they're right there on the cusp. If I had to guess right now, I would say they probably make the playoffs, but I can't say that for certain just because of how tough the conference is, and without Kawhi Leonard, who is a top 5 player, you lose a lot. Obviously, with Paul George, he is a star player. He's been an MVP candidate in just a couple years ago, so you can't count them out at all. But I think right now I'm going to put them fringe playoffs. Suns, potential title team. They were just the Western Conference champions, so I can't count them out. Trailblazers, I'm going to put solid playoffs. They've got Damian Lillard. I think they're going to be a solid playoff team. A couple teams are injured here and there. With Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Yusuf Nurkic, even if they don't make any trades, they're going to be a playoff team. I don't think they get super far, but they'll be a playoff team. Sacramento Kings, lottery. They're just going to be a lottery team. They just don't get better. Rashawn Holmes, I like the re-signing of him. I think they should trade Buddy Hield just to give Tyrese Halliburton some more minutes. I really don't think there's any rush for them to win because they're just not that good right now. But, you know, the Knicks, this might be controversial, but I'm going to put them fringe playoffs. I just don't know if they make their run because I feel like they overachieved a little bit last season. I'm not saying they're not a really good team because they are, but 4th seed in the East was really high. And now when you have the Brooklyn Nets, the Miami Heat, the Philadelphia 76ers, the I already said Brooklyn Nets, Milwaukee Bucks, like those top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference, the Celtics are going to be good. The Chicago Bulls got better. It's just tough out there in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, the Atlanta Hawks just made the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks are right there on the cusp for me. New Orleans Pelicans, I also think they'll be in this fringe playoff tier. I'm not really certain who's going to make the playoffs at this point. The Pelicans with Zion and Brandon Ingram, 2 All-Stars. I don't love that they traded Lonzo Ball. Well, not directly, but they ended up trading Lonzo Ball for Devontae Graham. Graham is a better kind of like self-shot creator, I would say, but he's just not super efficient, and he needs to be a better catch-and-shoot guy, which he really wasn't. So I don't love the pickup. He does add playmaking, like a la what Alonzo Ball did for them. I just don't know how I feel about it. Also trading for Valanciunas, that was a good move. That was one I liked a lot, and that's why I feel better about this team than I did last season. Charlotte Hornets, Also a fringe playoff team for me. There's a lot here. The Hornets, I think, could make it. LaMelo, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Mason Plumlee, PJ Washington, Miles Bridges off the bench. James Bouknight is going to be really good, kind of in that Malik Monk probably type of role like they had from him last season. I like what this Hornets team is doing. Kai Jones as a backup center as well. I think this is going to be a good team. I don't know if they make the playoffs. They might just be a year or two away, but the Hornets are very soon going to break out. And I think that this year that they have the potential, they were in the play-in game despite missing Gordon Hayward a lot of the season. I think they have the potential to make a push into the playoffs. Houston Rockets, tanking. They're going to be bad. Really, really fun young core. It's just not there yet. The Miami Heat, do I want to put them in potential title? I don't think I do, just because I think there will be a lot of teams. I'm just going to put them solid playoffs. I think the Heat could win the title. I think they could. They're just really good team. I'm only putting here for right now because I feel like I want to have, like, I don't feel like 7 teams might be too much up here. Maybe I'll move them up, but I think their free agent acquisitions in Kyle Lowry through a sign and trade, picking up PJ Tucker. I think they made some great acquisitions, bringing back Duncan Robinson. A lot of it's just going to depend on, and I said this in my Heat video where I said they definitely could win a title. It's going to depend on Bam Adebayo, in my mind, the way that he plays offensively, if he's able to get better on that end of the ball. Obviously, already a great defensive player, being an all-defensive level guy, but he's got to get better. So, we'll see about the Miami Heat, but right now, I think I might move them up before the end of the video. We'll see. Chicago Bulls, I think they're solid playoffs. I think a lot of people don't think they're going to make it or that they're going to miss out. I like this Bulls roster a lot. I think I just made a video on them too, similar to the Miami Heat. Go check that out if you haven't. Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, great backcourt pairing. DeMar DeRozan, adding some playmaking and some scoring. Nikola Vucevic just was an all-star this past season. And Patrick Williams is a player that I really believe in a lot. I think the Bulls got so much better, and I think they're going to be a playoff team. Brooklyn Nets, title team. I don't need to tell you about the Brooklyn Nets. You know they're a title team. Tanking, Oklahoma City Thunder. Yeah, my favorite team. We're going to be bad, and that's perfectly fine. Going to go into a stacked draft class this next season, armed with probably a top 5 pick, and I think that's the ideal scenario. I wouldn't be surprised if we had the worst record in the league, but also having Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I think is primed for an all-star campaign, could take us up a tier maybe, but for right now, I think we're going to be tanking. Golden State Warriors, solid playoff team is what I'm going to go with just because I need to see how Klay looks before I truly make a decision on where they're going to be at. If Klay looks like the Klay of old, then I think this will be a near title contending team, but we need to see before that and just see how the pieces mesh together. Boston Celtics, solid playoff team. They're a team that I think people have kind of slept on their offseason. I like it a lot, and I think ultimately that they're a team that is going to kind of surprise a lot of people. Jason Tatum is a guy that I think is a future MVP. Jaylen Brown's a monster. Robert Williams, I think they got him for a great contract. I love picking up Al Horford in his first offseason as GM. Brad Stevens, which is still super weird to say, has done a really good job. The Lakers are also a title contender. I don't need to tell you much more than that. And the Orlando Magic are tanking. So this is my tier list. I could change some stuff. Like I said, the Heat could probably go up to potential title team. You could move some teams down to lottery, maybe even move more teams down to tanking. But I think I'm okay with this. Like maybe I could even move the Cavs up to lottery. I'll do that for them. I like their team a lot. So this is my tier list. Let me know what you think about it. If there's anything I got wrong, if I slighted your team, whatever, let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate y'all watching. Let me know where you think your team ends up. I'll see you guys later. Real one, say it back.